All right, let's dive into this incredible history and geography of India. And wow, you guys have given us a lot to work with here.
It's a really fascinating area, lots to unpack. Every time you dig into India's story, you kind of find new connections and new insights.
For sure. And we're talking like going way back, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just a couple of centuries. We're talking about like millennia. I mean, think about planned cities thriving, along the Indus River. We're talking about like the foundations of Hinduism being laid in the Vedas. This is huge.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing how much those ancient roots still influence India today. Like whether it's religious practices or social structures or even political systems, there are these threads of continuity across thousands of years.
It really is like a giant tapestry, like all these threads of philosophy and conquest and innovation and cultural exchange. But let's start at the very beginning, like a time before empires, before grand dynasties, a time kind of shrouded in mystery, right?
Exactly.
Prehistoric India. So we know from the stuff you sent us that there were Paleolithic cave paintings at Bhimbetka. But what else do we know about these early inhabitants?
Well, those cave paintings, they offer a little glimpse into the lives of these hunter-gatherers that, roamed the Indian subcontinent thousands of years ago. They depicted animals, hunting scenes, even these abstract symbols. So, suggest a complex understanding of their world.
Yeah, it really makes you think, what stories they told around their fires, like what beliefs they held, what rituals they practiced. I mean, it's amazing how much we can learn from these fragments of the past.
Absolutely. And then as we move through, the Mesolithic and the Neolithic periods, you see these gradual shifts towards settled life, like Mehrgar, for example. This shows some of the early signs of agriculture, village life taking root. I mean, this was a pivotal moment in human history, not just in India, but globally.
It's really the foundation upon which, civilizations were built. And speaking of civilizations, let's fast forward to one of the most remarkable civilizations, I think, of the ancient world, the Indus Valley civilization. And we know they had incredibly advanced cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, but the thing that really blows me away is their urban planning. It's like they were playing SimCity thousands of years ago.
I know, right? Like grid systems, drainage systems, like standardized weights and measures. I mean, it's incredible how organized and sophisticated they were. And the fact that they had trade networks spanning huge distances, reaching all the way to Mesopotamia, I mean, that just speaks volumes about their ingenuity and their connection to the wider world.
They were way ahead of their time. But the biggest mystery surrounding them, I think, is their undeciphered script. Like, can you imagine all that knowledge that's locked away in those symbols? It's like, having a key to a secret library, but you can't open the door.
It's so true. It is a constant source of fascination and frustration, I think, for archaeologists and historians. Every now and then there's like this little glimmer of hope that maybe we're close to cracking the code, but, it remains one of the biggest unsolved puzzles in archaeology.
Maybe someday, with new technology, we'll finally be able to unlock those secrets. But for now, let's move on to the Vedic period. So this is when the Aryans arrived in the region and the foundations of Hinduism were established through the Vedas. Is that right?
That's right. The Vedas are this collection of hymns and prayers and rituals, and they provide incredible insights into, the beliefs and the social structures of this era. And they also laid the groundwork for like all these philosophical concepts like karma, dharma, reincarnation, ideas that, still resonate within Hinduism today.
It's amazing to think how these ancient texts still shape the lives of millions of people.
Yeah.
And it's not just about religion either. The Vedic period saw the emergence of the Mahajanapadas. These were like powerful kingdoms, essentially. And they really kind of laid the groundwork for political organization and power dynamics in ancient India.
Yeah, for sure. And within that context, you see these new spiritual movements popping up that challenge kind of the existing norms, like Buddhism and Jainism, both emphasizing nonviolence and self-discovery. They emerged as powerful alternatives to like the Vedic traditions.
It was a really interesting time, like intellectually, spiritually. Like the whole Indian subcontinent was this laboratory of ideas, all these different schools of thought competing and influencing each other. But eventually, out of this whole complex tapestry of kingdoms and philosophies, the first major empire emerged, the Maurya Empire.
And wow, what an empire it was. Founded by Chandragupta Maurya, this figure shrouded in legend and ambition. And the Maurya Empire really unified a huge part of the Indian subcontinent for the first time. And his advisor, Chanakya, wrote the Arthashastra, which is a treatise on politics and statecraft that people still study today. It's like, Machiavelli's The Prince, but like centuries earlier.
Talk about a power duo.
Oh.
But it was Chandragupta's grandson, Ashoka, who really kind of captured the imagination of history.
I mean, Ashoka's story it's really incredible. He started out as a pretty ruthless conqueror, but there was this pivotal battle that just totally transformed him. The bloodshed and the suffering that he witnessed, it led him to embrace Buddhism, and he dedicated his reign to promoting peace, nonviolence, and social welfare.
It's like a real-life redemption arc.
Yeah, it is. And he wasn't just, all talk. Like, he inscribed his edicts on pillars and rocks across the entire empire, promoting religious tolerance and ethical governance. It's like he was really trying to build a more just and compassionate society.
And his influence really extended beyond India's borders, right? Like Ashoka sent missionaries all over Asia to spread Buddhism, which really contributed to its growth as a major world religion. It's a pretty amazing testament to the power of personal transformation and how one leader can actually shape the destiny of an entire empire.
Yeah, it really is.
And after the Mauryas came a period that many people consider like a golden age, the Gupta Empire, and they're known for all these advancements in art, science, and literature. But what really stands out to me is their scientific curiosity.
Yeah, absolutely. This is when figures like Aryabhata came about, calculating the value of pi and proposing that the Earth rotates on its axis. And it wasn't just abstract knowledge, they made huge contributions to mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and really laid the groundwork for future discoveries.
I mean, it's mind-blowing to think that so many foundational concepts that we use every day, like the decimal system, the concept of zero, originated in India during this period.
Yeah, I know. It really challenges our assumptions about where knowledge comes from and how it spreads. The Gupta Empire's intellectual achievements had a huge ripple effect across the world. I mean, influencing everything from mathematics to astronomy to our understanding of the universe.
So we have this incredibly vibrant period of intellectual and artistic flourishing. But as with all empires, eventually the Guptas declined. And that kind of paved the way for, new powers to emerge.
It did. And that's where we'll pick up next time. We'll explore the arrival of Islamic influence and the rise of new empires and all the fascinating cultural exchange that, shaped medieval India.
Okay, so we've gone through ancient India, right?
Yeah.
Witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the birth of religions, and all this flourishing of art and science. But now let's shift gears a little bit and explore the arrival of Islamic influence in India. Your sources mentioned this, the Delhi Sultanate. What can you tell us about that period?
Yeah, the Delhi Sultanate, it was established in the 13th century, and it really marks a pivotal moment in Indian history. It brought with it new forms of governance, architecture, cultural practices, really left a lasting impact on the subcontinent.
It's always interesting to me to see how different cultures interact. Sometimes they clash, sometimes they blend, and they ultimately kind of shape each other. It's like adding a new spice to a recipe. You totally transform the flavor.
That's a great analogy. And within the Delhi Sultanate, you see this really cool fusion of Persian, Turkish, and Arab influences with the existing Indian traditions. And that led to some unique architectural styles, like the Indo-Islamic architecture that you see in a lot of mosques and palaces from that era.
And then, of course, we have the Mughal Empire, which seems to capture people's imagination like no other. They were known for their grandeur, their opulent courts, and those amazing architectural marvels.
Yeah, the Mughals, they were descended from Genghis Khan and Timur, so they were a force to be reckoned with. They established this vast empire that stretched across much of India, and their reign really, left a permanent mark on the cultural landscape.
It's interesting to me to see how the Mughals, despite coming from Central Asian origins, they really embraced and adapted to the Indian context. I mean, think about the Taj Mahal, one of the most iconic symbols of India. It's like a testament to that cultural fusion.
Oh, absolutely. The Taj Mahal, built by Shah Jahan as a mausoleum for his wife Mumtaz Mahal. It's a masterpiece of Mughal architecture. It blends Persian, Islamic, and Indian design elements, reflecting that syncretic nature of Mughal culture.
It's also, just a powerful reminder of the human capacity for love, loss, and artistic expression. But the Mughal era wasn't all grandeur and romance. There were complex religious dynamics at play, too.
Oh, for sure. The Mughal Empire had a super diverse population, with Hindus and Muslims coexisting within its boundaries. And Akbar the Great, one of the most well-known Mughal emperors, he's known for his policy of religious tolerance, trying to bridge the divide between those different communities.
His approach seems, I don't know, pretty progressive, especially for that time period. But not all the Mughal emperors followed that path, right?
That's true. Aurangzeb, for example, he adopted more rigid religious policies, which led to tensions and ultimately contributed to the decline of the empire. So, the Mughal era really showcases those challenges of governing a vast and diverse empire, highlighting that delicate balance between tolerance and control.
It's definitely a valuable lesson that resonates even today. But as the Mughal Empire weakened, a new power started to assert its dominance: the British.
Yeah, the arrival of the British East India Company. That was a huge turning point in Indian history. Initially, they came as traders, but they gradually gained control over large parts of India. They used a mix of clever diplomacy, military power, and, they really exploited existing political divisions.
Classic tale of colonialism, right?
Yeah.
You have this powerful nation exploiting a weaker one for its own resources and wealth.
Sadly, yes. And the British East India Company's actions, they had a profound impact on India, leading to economic exploitation, social upheaval, and ultimately, this growing sense of resentment and resistance among the Indian people.
And that resistance kind of culminated in the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, right?
Yeah, exactly. The Sepoy Mutiny was sparked by these controversial rifle cartridges. They were greased with animal fat, which offended both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. And so the mutiny became a symbol of resistance against British rule. While it was eventually put down by the British, it really marked a major turning point in that relationship between India and Britain.
It's like that event, I don't know, it awakened a national consciousness, a shared identity, and a real desire for self-rule.
Yeah, you could say that. The Sepoy Mutiny really laid the foundation for the Indian independence movement, which gained so much momentum in the following decades.
And this is where we see figures like Gandhi, Nehru, and countless others emerge, leading this multifaceted movement for independence.
Yeah.
And their stories, they're so inspiring, but they're also heartbreaking when you consider all the sacrifices they made.
Yeah, it's true. The Indian independence movement was a testament to the power of nonviolent resistance. It was spearheaded by Gandhi's philosophy of satyagraha. But it was also a really complex and multifaceted movement. There were all these different factions and approaches that contributed to the struggle.
It wasn't just about political freedom either. There were these social reformers who were working really hard to address, like caste discrimination and women's rights, further shaping what a new India would look like.
It was a period of intense intellectual and political ferment, all these different ideologies and visions for the future of India.
And finally, in 1947, India achieved its hard-won independence. It must have been an incredible moment full of joy and hope, but also, tinged with sadness given the partition of the country into India and Pakistan.
Independence did come at a high price. The partition led to widespread violence and displacement, which left a lasting scar on the subcontinent. It's a stark reminder of the complex legacies of colonialism and those challenges of nation building, which, they still endure today.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even triumphs can be bittersweet. But despite all those challenges, the birth of independent India marked a new chapter. It was a chance for them to finally forge their own destiny.
It was a time of so much possibility, a chance to build a nation based on the principles of democracy, secularism, and social justice.
So we've journeyed through thousands of years of Indian history, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, the birth and evolution of religions, and, the enduring spirit of people determined to shape their own destiny. But a nation is more than just its history, right? It's also shaped by its geography, its landscapes, its natural resources. So let's turn our attention now to the incredible diversity of India's physical geography. It's kind of amazing to think about how much we've already covered, from ancient civilizations to the fight for independence. And now we get to embark on a whole new journey, exploring the landscapes that make India so unique.
It's a land of extremes, You've got these towering mountains and vast plains, arid deserts and lush coastlines. It's almost like a continent in and of itself.
I know, it really is. And it's not just a spectacle, right? These diverse landscapes have actually shaped the course of Indian history, influencing, everything. Settlement patterns, trade routes, cultural practices, all of it.
Right, Take the Himalayas, for example. They've served as this natural barrier for, I don't know how many years, shaping weather patterns, influencing migration routes, even like inspiring spiritual belief.
They're almost like a character in India's story, you know what I mean? Like a silent guardian watching over the subcontinent for like millennia.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating that they've also been a source of cultural exchange.
Yeah.
You know, traders and pilgrims going through those treacherous mountain passes, bringing new ideas and influences from Central Asia and beyond.
Yeah, it shows that even the most formidable geographical features can become these conduits for connection and exchange.
And then we have the northern plains, the breadbasket of India, where the rivers, the Ganga, the Indus, the Brahmaputra have nourished civilizations for centuries.
I mean, they're more than just waterways, right? They're like lifelines. Sources of sustenance, inspiration for art and literature, even objects of worship. Think about the Ganga. Like, its spiritual significance in Hinduism. That's a powerful example of how geography and culture can be so intertwined.
It's like these rivers have their own personalities, you know, their own stories to tell.
Yeah.
And they've played such a key role in shaping the demographics of the region. The fertile plains have always drawn people in.
Yeah.
And that's led to these huge cities and agricultural centers.
Yeah. And then in contrast to the bustling plains, you have the Deccan Plateau, this vast elevated region that dominates a big chunk of southern India.
It's like a land of ancient rock formations, rolling hills, and dense forests.
Yeah.
It's got such a unique, like, character, its own rhythm of life almost.
Right. It's got its own distinct history and cultural traditions shaped by its geography and its relative isolation from the north. And it's also, like, really rich in mineral resources, which has contributed to its economic development.
And speaking of unique landscapes, we can't forget about the Thar Desert, right?
Yeah.
That huge expanse of sand dunes and scrubland in the northwest.
The Thar Desert is, like, a perfect example of human resilience. I mean, it's harsh, but people have adapted to the challenges, developing their own unique ways of life and cultural practices.
It shows that humans can thrive anywhere, even the most extreme environments. And finally, we got to talk about India's incredible coastline. Over 7,500 kilometers. I mean, wow.
From these bustling port cities like Mumbai and Chennai to those peaceful beaches in Goa, the coast has always been like a gateway to the world, allowing trade, cultural exchange, even, invasions.
It's a bridge between India and the rest of the world, shaping its interactions with other civilizations for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the mainland, right? India also has those amazing island chains, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. I mean, so much biodiversity.
Those islands are like these little jewels scattered across the Bay of Bengal. They showcase the range of ecosystems that India encompasses.
So you got mountains, plains, deserts, coastlines, islands. It's like a sampler platter of the best landscapes the world has to offer.
Yeah.
But, it's not just about the static features, right? Climate plays a huge role in shaping life in India.
For sure. India's monsoon climate, with its distinct wet and dry seasons, has a huge impact on agriculture, water resources, even cultural practices.
It's like this annual rhythm that governs life in India. The monsoon arrives, and it's a celebration, a time of renewal, hope.
But it's also a reminder of nature's power. I mean, the monsoon brings rain that's vital for life, but it can also cause devastating floods. It's this delicate balance between humans and the environment.
You don't want to mess with that. And speaking of forces of nature, we have to talk about India's incredible river systems.
Right.
We've already touched on the Himalayan rivers, but there are so many others, crisscrossing the subcontinent, shaping the landscape and sustaining life.
Each river has its own character, its own story. The peninsular rivers like the Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, they depend on the monsoon rains. So they have this seasonal ebb and flow that has shaped agricultural practices and settlement patterns for I don't know how many generations.
It's pretty amazing how these rivers are woven into the fabric of Indian culture, inspiring art, literature, religious beliefs, everything.
It's true. They're not just waterways. They're cultural arteries connecting people and places.
So, here we are. We've traveled through thousands of years of Indian history, witnessed the rise and fall of all these empires, and explored the incredible diversity of India's landscapes and climate. It's been an amazing journey, and I think it's safe to say that India is a place of endless fascination.
Absolutely. It's a country that really challenges your assumptions and expands your perspective. And I think, more than anything, it just leaves you in awe.
And with that, we've come to the end of our deep dive into the history and geography of India. But, in a way, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore, so many stories left to uncover.
Keep exploring. Keep diving deeper into the things that sparked your interest. Keep asking questions.
because India, with its rich history, culture, and landscapes, offers a lifetime of discovery. So, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we hope you'll join us again for another adventure in knowledge.